Hello there, wrestling fans, and welcome to another episode of the internationally known Dudes at Ringside podcast. I'm your host, Joe the Panther, the third. And man, fans, we are in for a treat tonight. This young lady has been everywhere, from here to there, to north to west. Oh my gosh, let's give a warm Dudes at Ringside welcome to Jasmin St. Clair. Welcome, Jasmin.
Thank you so much for having me and making this work. I know I've been like a total pain in the ass today, but thank you.
No, Jasmin, you're good. I'm just happy to have you on. So
Mm.
so that you've been all over the place in the within the wrestling world, into the porn world. Like, how did you get your start in the wrestling business?
Um, actually, uh, it's interesting. Rob Black, he brought me into the ECW pay-per-view, Living Dangerously, and I mean that's where I got my real first taste of it. Like I grew up watching wrestling, but to actually be a part of it was something I never saw. So he had a deal with Paul Heyman. What that deal was, I don't know. Uh, I went to ECW at that time, and then whatever the deal was didn't go through after. So he told me not to go back. So at the time, I was still involved in the adult aspect of his business, which didn't last long. He put me into XPW. So I had a really small run there before I just quit completely and went back to ECW. Um, so in that small stint between XPW and ECW, I was working in Memphis for Jerry Lawler, and then on weekends I was working at ECW, and then I just quit completely and just stayed at ECW. It was great, it was fun, but I owe Rob like that. I owe to Rob. I mean, I just went to Japan. That wouldn't have happened unless I met Necro Butcher, and then they brought us both over to Japan.
Wow.
Yeah.
So when you got your start within the wrestling, who trained you in all this stuff?
Sue Sexton, she was an original Glow Girl, and then Mondo Guerrero. So he did like I could actually wrestle, but because of my size, I'm used as a manager, and I'm totally fine with that. Um, I don't want to get into like death matches and all of that. And I feel as though right now with female wrestling, it's too much. Like it seems like that's all everyone's pushing and pushing, and it's just I much rather I like being a manager. It's fun.
Mm. That's good to hear because you're like you came from one side of the aspect of like the Hollywood stuff like that, and then you got into the wrestling. So what do you think about what's happening now within like now when you're like doing this stuff with XPW? Like, do you feel like everybody knows who you are when you come to the shows, or like do you feel like some of the fans are too young to know about you?
I don't know. Maybe it's a mixture of both. Um, those who follow the product would know. Those who do not, then they do find out real fast. Either or, it's okay with me because you always get a new fan base from it, which is great.
Hmm. So, do you have any crazy stories that you want to talk about tonight with your with the Ringside crew?
Like which one? Where do we start? I
I
mean,
don't know if you can go anywhere with these stories. I'm cool with it.
there's so many out there. I mean, it just depends. But I could assure you, half the stories that have not come out of my mouth, they probably aren't true. Uh, I don't know. I mean, there's so many different eras, like working independence, on days off from ECW, me like it was a whole other level of people in some places. Where are you from again? I'm sorry.
I was okay. I'm from Pennsylvania.
Okay, yeah. So then like some of these places, man, like I was working a show with Abby the Butcher, and it was funny like watching when they're half naked saying to some guy, you have to listen to me. If I tell you do this, you have to do this. And it's like young versus old, and this kid's like marking out for him in the back. Like, what's going to happen to him? I would just think like, you'd listen to him, but he didn't listen. I guess this kid wanted to manage Abby, and maybe he was the promoter of the show, and the whole thing just didn't work out as planned. There's so many, I don't know if they're crazy stories, man. It's just I've worked everywhere, but everyone's always been so professional,
Hmm.
Now that I have a Singapore cane, I think it's just been wilder, like the kind of people that actually like that type of action. And some guy was begging me to hit him with the cane who was in the crowd. I'm like, why? I said, you don't want me whacking you with this. I really
That
don't.
would hurt. Like,
Well, yeah, but I
oh,
mean, look at what I mean. Some of the people that you deal with, I mean, there are different levels of people in society that I'm learning um, when you go to these shows. And they're nice people, don't get me wrong, they're lovely. You know, working overseas was fun. I think the silliest thing that ever happened overseas was working in England uh, for this wrestling company. Really nice people, very well run. But this bitch from a reality TV show with her stupid cowboy hat, like, came to the show because I don't know, BBC was doing something and what her whole basis was. She was so fucking annoying. It's like, could I just take that cowboy hat and stick it up your ass? Because that is how annoying you're being right now. She wanted to like be in the show or something and talk. Well, she didn't get in the show, by the way. Like, we made sure of that. But I was on the show with little Guido, and I'm like, you have to interject because I'm gonna rip this bitch's eyes out. Like, seriously. So he did what he had to do to make sure she wasn't in the match, because she had like zero wrestling experience. It was like a different version of Tough Enough, you
mm,
know? And it's like it's just that whole it's like part of what's wrong with society today in wrestling is you get kids that are just influencers that just want to do moves for the sake of doing moves and not telling a story or knowing ring psychology. And she was like no different than that. But yeah, needless to say, she was like out of the whole thing, and she wore her stupid little cowboy hat and silver hot pants for no reason that day. um
I swear, in your head, you were like, you saw the whole thing like a cartoon over the bubble over your head. You're like, you kendo sticking her and just pulling her over the barricade.
I didn't even have the kendo stick then. It was like I think I don't know how I brought. You know what? That's really a good question. I don't know how I even got the last Halloween in Hell for XPW. I brought out the kendo stick. That's what
Mm,
happened. I don't know why. It just seemed like a good idea.
mm,
And it's weird because I became friends with Missy Hyatt when she came to XPW to work. And when she first started working with us, she had a Singapore cane. I totally forgot that. And it's just this whole weird like rehash of like 25 years later. I don't know how I ended up with it. I just brought it to the show and started using it.
hmm.
I guess
Oh,
it's suitable, and it's weird. Like when I worked the California when they first came back, I remember being in the same dressing room with Necro Butcher. I had like my own room. Veronica was in the room, and he like sat there. Was like, "Do you mind if I sit here?" It's like, yeah, sure, no problem. But then fast forward, then you're working an angle with him, which is really cool. And it's an absolute honor to be in Japan with legends like him and Madman Pondo. Uh, yeah, it's been a great run so far. Like, I'm totally grateful for it. I think the craziest thing ever at XPW, like the silliest thing, going to WrestleCon with Rob and Kat. You have Masada there and Schlack. And, I'm just like, I'm sitting there, right? We're getting dirty looks from people. I'm walking around to say hi to friends and people. I went to say hi to Trish Stratus and a few other people I knew. And I'm just getting dirty looks and like the roll. I'm like, what the fuck is up with people? Finally, someone had to pull me aside. It's that dick needle spot, like the hard body one that he put a needle. There was a dick. Do you remember the dick spot at all?
think so.
So he'd had a match. Hardbody had a match with Big Joe, Big effing Joe, and they put a needle through his dick, and that
Oh,
happened the week before we were at LAX Fan Fest or the WrestleCon in LA this year. And I keep forgetting how woke and retarded people are over stuff like that, and it's just that was what the dirty look was. Then you have these freaking drag queens or whatever the fuck they are, like walking around, like giving even dirtier looks. And I was nice to them. And that's right, I forgot. Yeah, I'm against drag queens hanging out with young kids like anyone else with their right mind. So they're taking a wrestling promo that I do, those promos for the Mega Maga faction, and taking it to heart. Like, drag queens are never really interested in kids. Pedophiles are. And I
hmm.
think they mixed up the two. Like, they were so ignorant not to see, okay, she's referring to this in that promo, not to us who dress up in drag and wrestle. So it was just a very weird time at WrestleCon this year.
Hmm.
From the dick spot to the promos. And yeah, and I mean, along the years, there've just been weird things. Like I was working for Ian Rotten, and the hotel we stayed at, there was some guy in the room yelling at the girl, "Don't you be calling my mama no hoe, bitch." And then there's like, oh, there are police cars in the parking lot. Then there's like a pimp with these girls in the front, and then they're handcuffed. I'm like, where the fuck are we, man? Like, who are these people? Then I forgot, we're like at where was IWA Mid South that I was, where did I go to work? Is that Alabama or something?
I think it's Alabama. It could be Alabama. I'm not
Where's
sure.
Drake Younger from? Is he from Alabama?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm
then
not.
that's where it was, because he told me he met me at that show. I'm like, how old were you? Like, were you even old enough to be wrestling then? He was like 17 or 18, buying Polaroids with me at a show. So, then fast forward, then you're working with this kid at XPW. But, I think Rob really gives people a special opportunity. It's like the island of misfit toys, because I don't feel as though it's like ECW continued, but I don't feel as though there are a lot of companies that would be bold enough to have like half those promos that we do and this whole MAGA thing. But it works for us, and it's fun. I haven't had any really crazy stories in Japan because people were very nice there and respectful, and it's a different caliber of wrestlers you're dealing with. I do think it was weird seeing like fans in the audience with like plastic on them. That's so A, you don't get light tubes,
Yep.
and B, you don't get bloods. But when it came out to the ring, I didn't realize there was all that glass in the ring prior to us coming out. I'm like, fuck. So like I'm slapping the mat. I still have like marks in my hand from the glass that went in there, but I got it out.
Oh
Like,
wow.
thank God Veronica Kane is a backstage nurse at like XPW and those deathmatch shows. Because right before I went to Japan, I remember I took a few little like splinter things, like brought it with me just in case. She gave them to me.
Yeah. Gotta be
So
careful.
yeah.
Those things are crazy.
Well,
Like,
XPW is the only company right now that has her doing that. I think other companies are like slowly reaching out to like get her to do nursing services in the back. I actually went to school for phlebotomy, but I'm afraid of blood. But
oh,
here I am in the middle of this shit, right?
yet I have 4 tattoos. Yet anytime like I have to get blood, I'm just like, we got to do what with that?
Yeah, it's like, don't touch me. Then how can I finish your tattoo? Aha, just by sight. Uh,
Just draw it on my arm. It's okay.
yeah, we're good with that. My friends in Norway, they did all my tattoos, and like she's used to me. And one of her tattoo studios was in the basement of a clothing store where they had all the jeans and like sale items, but it's all ages that would go into that basement. And you'd hear me like carrying on, like motherfuckering and cursing. And they did the my Thor's hammer on my foot. I mean, you should have heard me. It took her 3 sittings to do that because I just couldn't stay still.
Hmm,
At one
that's
point, I like got up and I tried to walk around.
Have you ever heard of H2O, the deathmatch promotion?
Yes.
Yes, I actually my first solo interview I did, but my dad was with me. I interviewed Lady Blakely.
Okay.
Yes, she's another deathmatch wrestler. And I had Kat. I had Kat from XBW on the podcast. Had a nice conversation with her. It was so much fun. And I'm having another fun conversation with another awesome person from XPW right now. So I'm like super excited to have you on, Jasmine.
We
Like
try.
yes, we tried like last time and we had technicals, but we're here now. Um, like when you travel, like what is it for you? Do you like getting the local food, or do you like pack your own stuff, or do you go to like the chains?
I would never be disrespectful in another country because I've lived in other countries and I speak like 5 languages. So I would never, it's the most annoying thing when you have American tourists coming into a country and they go babbling with their American voices, not even attempting one word, right? In another language, then looking for steak and fucking potatoes. Like, why are you here? Then just like go back across the ocean or somewhere. I just buy the food where it is. I will say Japan had the best karaage chicken. It was clean. I love the yams. the Japanese yams in lemon water for breakfast with seaweed. I liked the beans there. I liked everything. It was very clean food. Actually, McDonald's there is very clean. I did cheat and have a McDonald's one day just to see what it's like. In Europe, it's cleaner. There, it's cleaner. It's probably just the beef and the dairy, but I don't. I couldn't. I couldn't do that to myself, and nobody traveling to another country or another state. You owe it to yourself to like try the local things. If you're vegan, then I'm sure they have options, or just get back on the fucking plane.
Go home. Go back to where you go. No,
Well,
I'm
yeah, they had these vegans in a steakhouse in LA, and they sued the place because they didn't have vegan options. It's like, asshole, are you illiterate? It says steakhouse, okay?
steakhouse,
So,
big
right.
letters.
If you can't read, then learn, or just go to one of your little trendy places in Silver Lake. Like, fuck off.
Yeah,
So they lost success. Like, they did lose, thank God, because the steakhouse is the best steakhouse. I love steakhouses.
steakhouse. Like, so when you're at the steakhouse, what is like your top notch thing? Like you would like you buy on the menu. Like, what's your
Oh
favorite thing?
man, and I don't eat very much, so I'll order the biggest thing and probably not eat it. I'll have like 3 bites. I like filet. I like surf and turf. I love prime rib, and then I have to have mashed potatoes and some kind of green. If they have the steamed spinach, that's good. I'm a total sucker for Texas Roadhouse, Applebee's, Chili's, Outback. Yeah, I'm very picky though about steaks now, because I think it's Tyson Farms. I'm not sure. I heard that they're crunching up rodents and putting it in the meat to
Oh,
like make it
jeez.
fuller. Some kind of crap. Like, I won't buy from them. I'll buy I have no problem buying steak at like a farmer's market, paying a little bit more at certain places and buying it there than getting it from Tyson Farms for now.
So, sorry,
Yeah.
Jasmine. So you do your own podcast. What if my fans want to find it on anywhere where like you're on Spotify, right?
It's everywhere. It's a Crazy Train podcast. It's crazy with a K. So Crazy Train with Jasmine St. Clair. And it's on Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, Google. I also have a YouTube page, and I'll be starting to do a monthly live stream off of that in November. I don't know which Monday. So it'll be fun. It's like really weird navigating this world you never knew would exist in years from now. And I love doing it. I just had John Wayne Bobbitt on as a guest today. It focuses on a lot of 90s pop culture. And like sometimes, you go on there, you compare notes with people from that era who've done really cool things. Because I think the thing that people fail to realize nowadays is just because you didn't go posting on an Instagram or the internet doesn't mean it didn't happen. So you could live through it vicariously with us. And I
Yeah.
just get a lot of interesting people on. I like having John Wayne Bobbitt on. I had Teddy Hart on. I had Joey Ryan. Um, Brian Kendrick. I like going into cancel culture because I think it's the most toxic thing today that's brought out toxic femininity. And it's also during the pandemic, it's brought out a lot of bad behavior with people where they had to say something to seem relevant and cool. Like in Spanky's case, Brian Kendrick, he's really talented. And to dig up something from 8 years ago and bring it up now, what were you really looking to do? And Teddy Hart, like I've known Teddy for years. He's a loose cannon, but just the way that documentary filmmaker made him out to be, it seems horrible. And people fail to realize that girl he allegedly murdered was a drug addict who got out of jail. So God knows where she went after that, but he wasn't with her. And, he was dating someone, he was in like another state at that time. So, Joey Ryan in that case, so there are a lot of people that want your spot at a company and will do what it takes. And, then canceling him out of Trader Joe's. So why weren't charges ever brought against him? You know? So it's just this whole thing. I kind of try to avoid people in general if I know their problem.
Yeah.
And I could spot that shit. Like one thing Veronica and Kat could say is it's very scary with me because I'm very good spotting an incident long before it happens.
That's
It's like,
that's the
oh, don't Jasmine. I had this like I had this vision one day. I don't know what I was doing. I was taking a cat nap and something with CM Punk and XPW. And then I called Veronica. We were on our phone just talking. I said, dude, I have a feeling just I keep seeing something with CM Punk. And I'm not a psychic. I'm not a psychic intuitive. I'm far from it. But a few days later, they did like a joke graphic of CM Punk in XPW.
No.
That's probably that was a joke though. And she called me. I'm like, no, I said that has to be a joke. I said, I just saw something like I don't know. I don't know. I said, I don't think so.
No.
I told you this a few days ago. What did I tell you? I said, he's a cancer everywhere he goes. So I really have a lot of respect on that level for Tony Khan for like sticking up for his company. But I think right now wrestling is too fucking woke. I don't think every guy should be jobbing out to a woman. And it doesn't make me misogynistic, but there are women matches and then there are spots for women as managers. And I think that's what it should be. It shouldn't be, that's what Glow was. We have women of wrestling. That's what those leagues are. But to bring this whole woke agenda into what we're doing, we're leaving so much money on the table out there now. It's like you have whatever it was saying it's a woman, but it's a man, then have whoever it is that's the commissioner of that wrestling company. Hey, you can't wrestle, women, you can't wrestle biological women because you're a biological male, and have that as like a whole angle, and then you're leaving money on the table. It takes money out of everyone's pocket then. I know I went down one of my crazy rabbit
No,
holes.
it's okay. I was like, no, Jasmine, don't go down that rabbit hole. No, come back.
I'm not, it's not even a rabbit hole, it's the truth, and like at WrestleCon, I never saw that incident with Rick Steiner that they allegedly said happened. And some woke tard would have had a phone out there filming it. And that everyone is so quick to get their bloody phones out and just like start filming. Where is the incident? Where is the
Yeah.
incident? And if it's just this whole like thing that just got to stop. Because I was speaking to someone at the gym the other day. It's this younger guy who came up to me. It's this African American kid, and I wear my MAGA shirts to the gym all the time. I don't give a fuck. So I thought I know he works there, and I thought he was going to say something about my shirt the last time. I was ready, like I was sharpening my nails, ready to go. So he's like, I used to watch wrestling. I'm like, oh, phew.
Oh boy.
It's like I have to say, I love your work on ECW. That's an era that'll never come back because everyone's too woke.
Oh jeez.
But now I guess he'll like watch a pay-per-view now on Sunday. So I'm excited.
Yeah. So if there was any young the closeout, if my fans would like to buy anything of yours, how and where how can they find it?
Now and again, I pop up on Instagram with links to a Shopify store that's like no longer around. I have to fix it, but I go on eBay, and the photo in the corner is me with the red beret. It says Ms. Jasmin St. Clair. I put photos up there. I have T-shirts, posters, magnets. Like there's something for everyone. That's one thing. And obviously, if you rate and review my podcast and send me a screenshot, I always send out like free goodie bags with magnets because it's always about like promoting these things. I always send out a free goodie bag with like magnets, stickers, pins, things like that. But yeah, that's where all my merchandise is. I have to find a way to like, I've been kicked off PayPal. So I have to find another way to do. Well, I told them I was going to bomb them. Like they held my money. It's a few years ago. I sold a watch, a Lucerne French watch, and a watch from Switzerland. And when you hold like $4,000 of someone's money because the username is similar to someone else from like 10 years ago, and you hold their money, that's like fucking with someone's money. So of course they're going to say something. I mean, I was flustered, so they canceled my PayPal.
Oh jeez.
I don't know why, but yeah, I don't think threatening them was the best thing to do in my
So
yeah.
Jasmine, when is your next episode and of your I know you said you just interviewed when is the next one air? Like when does the next one debut?
So what I do is they come out every Wednesday on Spotify and iTunes and any podcast platform that you listen to your podcast on. So this week it was Veronica Kane of XPW fame and other things. Next week it's The Godfather. The week after that, Jeannie Basone or Hollywood from Glow. Then the week after that, John Wayne Bobbitt.
Awesome. So in closing, Jasmine, if there was any male or female that wanted to get in the wrestling business, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say just to go out to like an indie show of your choice that you like. that you actually like and watch. And, go to the promoter and, maybe back in the day you'd send tapes in, but basically, speak to the booking team and, or speak to someone that was in charge of the bookings, introduce yourself, be respectful, and see if there are any spots that are available. You don't go big right away. Obviously you start somewhere. When you're in the back in the dressing room, always ask the veterans for advice on your matches and what you can do differently, because it's something a lot of people lack these days. And of course, shake hands with everyone when you meet them in the back and introduce yourself.
Awesome.
Be
Jasmin, I
respectful.
want to thank you so much for coming on on the podcast. It means a lot because, like, I'm Mr. Old School on the podcast, and I grew up in the '90s. I was born in the '80s, so it's kind of like me and you were like, woo, like we fit in. So, thank you so much, Jasmin. I'm Joe Panther the Third.
And I'm Jasmin St. Clair.
And we will catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody, or have a great day.